Hello and welcome to Oddspedia Bundesliga Matchday 23. We have Borussia Dortmund still in an incredible run, only 6 points behind the Bayern Munich. Great fight also for the Champions League. Leipzig out of the top four, Ronan, and also a great fight for the relegation with Werder Bremen in the bottom three.
Yeah, there is plenty of drama, plenty of narratives in the Bundesliga at the moment. I'm not sure people are necessarily saying there's a title race happening at the moment, because I know there's 6 points in Germany, but it's not like when there was 6 points between Arsenal and Man City and people are saying, oh, Man City are still in it or back in it. But I'm not sure anyone is saying the same about Borussia Dortmund, but they are on a tremendous run at the moment in the Bundesliga. So yeah, long may that continue and maybe keep some pressure on Bayern Munich at the top, and at the other end of the table, yeah, we're definitely getting plenty of entertainment. We're getting plenty of entertainment in who's going to reach the top four in the Bundesliga this season, although it may be the top five because German teams are performing excellently in Europe this season. So yeah, there could be a fifth place for Champions League. So yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for these narratives. The more the merrier.
Well, remember we have 3 German teams actually playing this week in Europe, so pay attention when placing your bets since they might rotate or be tired, but we are going to give you all the clues for this Bundesliga weekend. Remember, of course, guys, that you can post and comment the video with us. We want to know what you think about these games. And now let's go on with the show. For Friday, we have again Mainz. We saw them also last Friday evening, and it was not a good one for them. They were smashed by Borussia Dortmund, now playing at home against Hamburg. 2 teams fighting against relegation, Ronan, but in really good form. Both of them, Mainz, as I said, they lost to Dortmund, but in general, they've improved a lot in the last weeks. And Hamburg, they are now 9th in the table, 6 points away from relegation, so almost saved since they won the 2 and draw 3 in the last 5 games. So, as I said, 2 teams in a decent form for being in the bottom half of the table.
Yeah, well, actually, this is the first time Hamburg have gotten into the top half of the table, isn't it? The 9th, so they're just after kind of getting over the line to go into the top half of the table, and great to see them, because they're obviously a historic club, a huge club with great history. The 70s, neither of us remember. We're not that old to remember in the 70s when 𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐼 came to Hamburg, nor was I, but yeah, or when the Beatles played there in the 60s. But yeah, this is a great historical city, a huge port town, really important kind of cultural capital and football capital in Europe, and it's great to see Hamburg staying around the Bundesliga, competing again in the Bundesliga, being able to be a great German team again. And yeah, Mainz, I know you said that game against Borussia Dortmund, yeah, that was one that we had spoken about, that maybe this Borussia Dortmund team would have enough about them, but Mainz in the past had given Borussia Dortmund headaches, but they definitely didn't give them any headaches last Friday. It was a convincing win for Borussia Dortmund, and Mainz will hope to put that behind them, because they had been on a run of 3 wins in a row before that match. They've really turned things around in 2026. They don't look in danger of going down anymore. And these are 2 teams that I think they would both be happy with a point in this one. I know Hamburg won 4-0 in October, but I don't think that's going to happen again. The most common result between these 2 sides is a 0-0. The most common result in Mainz is a 0-0 too. Smart Bet is giving 4 stars to a double chance 1-2. So it doesn't necessarily know who's going to win, but thinks someone will win. But I don't. I think it could be a draw. 340, I like the look of a draw in this one, because I think it'd be a decent result for both teams.
All right, indeed, both in a positive form. For Saturday, first game, Bayern Munich, Eintracht Frankfurt. This is a clean week for Bayern Munich. No cup where they are alive, no Champions League, and in the Bundesliga, they beat Werder Bremen 3-0 after beating Leipzig in the Pokal, as I said before. Is only 1.2 to beat this new Frankfurt with Albert Riera as a manager. They got themselves an important win against Gladbach 3-0.
Yeah, Riera is kind of, after maybe a stuttering start with that draw against Union Berlin, he's kind of putting his money where his mouth is with that kind of performance on the pitch. And I think that's what we were expecting to see. That's what he was promising, that this would be a more attacking team, or well, not a more attacking team, but maybe a more kind of consistent team in the way they attacked and defended. But they would continue to be an attacking team, maybe with just more points on the board than they had been getting in the past, and maybe stop conceding as many kind of silly goals as they had in the past. But he's playing Bayern Munich, and they're a team themselves who score a lot of goals. They continue to score 2 goals in every match. It's only happened in 2 games this season where they haven't scored 2 or more goals in a match. Happened again at the weekend. They're unbeaten in 5. They've got 3 wins in a row in all competitions, so they're in fantastic form. And the odds kind of reflect that 120. Even the odds of them getting over 1.5 goals themselves is only 115 in this one. That is super low for a team to score twice in any game, in any competition across Europe. You never kind of see odds that low. So the bookies are really confident that Bayern Munich can score lots of goals in this match. So you have to look at maybe who's going to score them goals, because it was 3-0 in October. 𝐿𝐴 scored twice. Harry Kane scored. Harry Kane hit a milestone at the weekend. He now has 500 career goals for club and country, of which 100 were penalties. So it's a nice kind of even numbers. 100 penalties, 500 goals. So yeah, Harry Kane is an anytime goal scorer. The bookies are only given that at 154. Might be worth a look though, because he does tend to score for Bayern Munich. He tends to score for England too. He usually tends to score, and he often scores a penalty. 1 in 5 of his goals have been a penalty, as we now know from the statistics. So Bayern Munich to score a penalty could be a good option here. 350, because Riera, the way he sets up his team, the way he talks in his press conferences, the way he played as a player, he is a kind of passionate man with strong opinions, and I'm sure he'll put his team out to put on a passionate performance, and a passionate performance sometimes leads to giving away penalties to Bayern Munich, because that's what happens in the Bundesliga.
Okay, well, 46 goals conceded this season Frankfurt, so I'm not surprised to see that the bookies expect Bayern Munich to score plenty of goals against Frankfurt, even if it was with another manager. Next game, Cologne, Hoffenheim, is Carnival in Cologne, by the way, so I guess the city is going to be hungover or very happy to see their team this weekend against Hoffenheim, but the team is falling in the table. Lost to Stuttgart, lost to Leipzig, so now 4 points away from relegation. The opposite as Hoffenheim, they bounced back after losing to Bayern Munich, beat Freiburg convincingly 3-0. So 5 points distance with the 5th of the table with RB Leipzig.
Yeah, Hoffenheim are having a great season as they continues to go on. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 continues to be among the goals, or we should have been among the goals. Actually, I had a goal early. I was delighted to see it come up as a notification on my phone, and then it was ruled out. But yeah, other players were scoring. Yeah, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 continues to be heavily involved, and Cologne, like you said, it's Carnival this week, so they will be in fantastic form regardless of what happens in this match, because they haven't been in brilliant form recently. They've had, this football team has had 2 defeats in a row, but the city themselves will continue to enjoy themselves this week. Cologne have had both teams to score, yes, in all but 1 game in 2026. 4 of those were defeats, and both teams to score, yes. So you know where I'm heading with this one. Hoffenheim has scored 3 or more goals 5 times already in 2026. So I like the look of a Hoffenheim win at 225. But I even more like the look of a Hoffenheim win and both teams to score at 360. And then, yeah, if you want to look at just Hoffenheim to score goals, there's another option of Hoffenheim over 1.5 goals. It was 1.16 for Bayern Munich to get that many goals. But for Hoffenheim, it's 195, so it's a bit more appealing for them.
Have you seen Ancelotti also having a great time in Rio? Yes, Carnival. I think he's enjoying Brazil. It's good to see that no matter the age, you can have a great time in Carnival, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll ever see him back in Europe after the time he's having in Carnival, perhaps.
Yeah, I think probably also he was happy to discover it's not too late to go to Brazil and enjoy life. But I'm sure also the Carnival in Cologne is a fun one. Next one, Union Berlin and Leverkusen. Leverkusen playing Champions League, so be careful. They have the tie with Olympiacos traveling to Athens this week, and they are 3 points away from the top 4 in this Bundesliga. 42 points Stuttgart, 39 Leverkusen beat Pauli 4-0, and Union Berlin in bad form. Ronan is winless in the last 7 and only 1 point in the last 4. Lost to Hamburg 3-2.
Yeah, and Bayern Leverkusen kind of the opposite. And we mentioned in the Champions League show that since they lost to Olympiacos in January, they haven't lost in the Bundesliga with 6 games without defeat, 5 wins and a draw. So this Leverkusen side that really put that one behind them and had great form domestically. So they should be confident that they can continue to do here, because they are a team who wants to be in that top 4, maybe top 5 places for Champions League, but a team who wants to be in the Champions League year in, year out now. They've kind of established themselves as one of Germany's best teams. They have to do that on the table year in, year out, because you've seen maybe RB Leipzig have done it before, but they're not in Europe this season, and you can see what a bad season can do to you. You can maybe attract the kind of players that you might want to do, and that is the Leipzig model, but it's also the Leverkusen model of the way they get players to come. They sign young players, they promise them that they can give them Champions League experience, they can give them exposure in big matches, and they need to be able to be in the Champions League every year, and they need to put on good performances. And that's probably why they pulled the trigger so early on Erik ten Hag. They kind of had the panic set in quite early this season that maybe that isn't what they were going to end up with, that they need to be that one of those top teams in Germany, and they're kind of showing it at the moment. And they won 2-0 in this match in October. They're on great form in this match. Like you said, Union Berlin, no wins in 7. So Leverkusen, they've won their last 2 trips. They went to Berlin, obviously under Xabi Alonso. But yeah, Leverkusen win here at 2.56. I'm not going to say no to that.
Let's see if they can cope with the Champions League Bundesliga rhythm, or they rotate a little bit. Wolfsburg, Augsburg is the next one. Wolfsburg now 1 point away from relegation, just above Werder Bremen, still favorites for this game after the draw with Leipzig. Is 1 point in the last 4 games since they lost the previous 3, and is 1 win in the last 8 games. So kind of surprising to see them favorites, especially because Augsburg won 3 out of the last 4 games. So again, I'm surprised to see Wolfsburg with these really low odds, in my opinion.
Yeah, I am too. And Augsburg kind of bounced back to beat Heidenheim after losing to Mainz, and Wolfsburg. I was correct in what I said of them against RB Leipzig. I thought they would keep it close, but they kept it very close. They nearly came away with 3 points. It looked like one stage they were going to win there, but yeah, the Wolfsburg of old maybe creeped in, and they ended up with a point, which is a good result against RB Leipzig. But it kind of shows that they still can't win. They still can't push things over the line. They can't get that final gear maybe that they need to pick up the points they need. And yeah, this is a team that against Augsburg in the past, it's been quite even. If you look at the past few years, it's very even. It's 5 wins for Wolfsburg, 6 wins for Augsburg, 6 draws. So yeah, this is a one where Augsburg won 3-1 earlier this season in Augsburg, but Wolfsburg haven't beaten Augsburg at home since 2021. So I'm not sure they're going to necessarily do it here, because Wolfsburg are kind of being dragged down the table. They've been dragged into that relegation battle, which we didn't necessarily expect. And a lot of that is to do with their home form, because if you look at the home table, they are 17th in the home table. They've just won twice at home all season. And I know the bookies think maybe they're going to win this one, but I don't, because Augsburg double chance at 179 is probably the most appealing of the bets, rather than Wolfsburg to win.
Indeed. Really, really good odds to back Augsburg here. First half draw is our smart bet for this game, 2.3 in this case, but there is value, of course, in going against Wolfsburg. And the great game this weekend is RB Leipzig, Borussia Dortmund. Once upon a time was a fight for the second spot in this Bundesliga. It's not the case this season. Dortmund playing Atalanta in the Champions League, so they have their focus in that game, and having a great run in the Bundesliga, 6 consecutive wins, whereas Leipzig left the top 4 after the draw with Wolfsburg. Is only 1 win in the last 4 Bundesliga games for RB Leipzig.
Yeah, and they also got knocked out with a cup in that time. We were expecting a bit of a better performance from them in the cup against Bayern Munich, but they didn't seem to put up much at all. I know some of the commenters asked us about the cup in previous episodes, and expected maybe both teams to score a match, but just didn't. They just lacked that firepower against Bayern Munich, and they've lacked it at times this season. There have been times that RB Leipzig haven't really put teams to the sword, that they haven't scored as many goals as perhaps they would have in recent seasons, and they could find difficult. This season they kept another clean sheet at the weekend, so I think they have the most clean sheets in the top 5 leagues this season, or the joint most, and that's kind of not what we would expect from Borussia Dortmund. Definitely not Borussia Dortmund in the past, but that's the way 𝗏𝐿𝐴 has them set up. And I know it was frustrating some of the players earlier in the season. Julian Brandt was one of the players that came out, and he was kind of annoyed with the way that they were playing, and they weren't maybe playing to his strengths, because he is kind of a player who likes to have the ball at his feet and go opposition defences and be given space, but he's probably been told to actually press and do some work off the ball, maybe, which isn't kind of his favoured route. But it's working for Borussia Dortmund. Like you said, 6 wins in a row in the Bundesliga. They do play Atalanta in the Champions League on Tuesday, so that one might kind of take something from them. Both teams to score, yes, kind of would be an option that you would look at in this, but I don't like the odds. It's only 146 in this match. Instead, maybe total goals market would be a better way to go. Total goals over 3.25 in this one is 196. But I really like the look of a Borussia Dortmund win. I know you should never trust Borussia Dortmund. We've learned that in the past. Just don't trust Borussia Dortmund. So maybe have a look at it with a small amount of money, because the odds on Borussia Dortmund to beat RB Leipzig, which they're well capable of doing, is 3.
Especially away, where they suffered the most. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 scoring finally 11 goals this season for him. We saw Leipzig beating Dortmund last season 2-0 at home, and a draw in Dortmund this season, the 4th of October. So it's been a couple of games without a win for Dortmund, and actually they haven't gotten good results in Leipzig. I'm trying to find the last time they won, it was some time ago. It was in 2021, 9th of January 2021, 1-3 for Dortmund. Haaland scored 2 goals in that game, by the way. Sorloth scored for Leipzig, so it's been a while without seeing Dortmund winning in Leipzig. For Sunday, we have 3 games. In this case, Freiburg, Gladbach is the first one, 9 points away from European spots for Freiburg. Lost to Hoffenheim, but at home getting better. 3 consecutive wins in the Bundesliga, also alive, for instance, in the Europa League or the Pokal. Gladbach 3 points away from relegation. Is 3 defeats and 3 draws in the last games, last 6. So actually the odds for Freiburg to win are not bad at all.
No, and Gladbach, yeah, both these teams actually lost 3-0 last weekend, so they both had weekends to forget, and Gladbach's maybe a little worse because dragged them closer to that relegation zone. They've only 1 win so far in 2026, whereas Freiburg, like you said, yeah, things are going well for them in other competitions, because they don't have a European match this week because they qualified in the top 8 in the Europa League, so they can avoid to play any of this playoff nonsense that some of the other teams have to do, so their players can take a midweek rest. They can focus on this match at the weekend, and yeah, their form has been inconsistent in 2026, but yeah, it's been good in Europe, it's been good in the Cup, it's been good at home, like you said. So you kind of have to look at Freiburg winning here. It was 0-0 in Mönchengladbach in October, but looking back to the meetings last season, Freiburg won them both. Freiburg are a better team on paper this season. I really need to tell myself to stop trusting Borussia Mönchengladbach to do anything, because they keep letting me down, they keep letting themselves down time and time again. So for that reason, I'm going to have to trust Freiburg in this one. And I think a home win against Borussia Mönchengladbach, who can't pick up a win anywhere, at over 2 odds of 2, it's 2.14. Yeah, that could be the way to go here.
All right, and then we have St. Pauli, Werder Bremen, drama in Hamburg. Second and third worst team this season. If St. Pauli beat Werder Bremen, they would be in direct relegation spots. Werder Bremen, historic team, lost to Bayern. To Freiburg is only 1 goal scored in the last 5 games for Werder Bremen. I had to scroll a lot, Ronan, to see their last win, 12 winless games. and St. Pauli at home getting decent results lately, 2 draws and 2 wins. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Werder Bremen in the penultimate spots on Sunday.
No, it wouldn't be a surprise. And they're struggling kind of to do anything at the moment. They're struggling to defend, but they're also struggling to score back-to-back games without scoring. So this is not a good Werder Bremen side. This is not a good moment for Werder Bremen. Yeah, they don't see themselves as relegation candidates, but that's definitely what they're looking at. Like at the moment, their form has been extremely poor. And St. Pauli, their form is a bit up and down. They beat Stuttgart 2-1 a couple of weeks ago, which was a big surprise, but since then they failed to score against Leverkusen in both the cup and the league, so they've got knocked out of the cup. They've kind of suffered a bit more in the league. And if you look at these teams when they play, when I know St. Pauli haven't been around the Bundesliga that long, but when they played last season, when they played earlier this season, these are not entertaining matches. So this is one maybe to steer clear of, because Bremen won 2-0 and 1-0 last season. This season so far was a 0-0. So it doesn't tend to be a high scoring match. I don't think either of us trust Bremen to win 2-0 or 1-0 this time. A 0-0 maybe seems more likely, because both teams to score, yes, has only happened 58% for St. Pauli this season, and astonishingly for the Bundesliga at least, because the Bundesliga, as we know, is the league, top 5 league with the most goals on average per game. 39% of Bremen's games have been both teams to score yes. So it tends to be both teams to score no. Both teams to score yes in their most recent 5 games of both teams, 60% of the time for Pauli, so at least they're playing somewhat entertaining games, but 20% for Werder Bremen. So just once in the last 5 games have they had both teams to score yes. So for that reason, I'm going for the rarity in the Bundesliga. Both teams to score no, which is 190.
Indeed, we have these betting stats, by the way, in our Bundesliga page. 41% of the games of Werder Bremen with both teams to score, only 55 for St. Pauli. The second worst Werder Bremen after Gladbach, St. Pauli, 5th in the standings for both teams to score no in this case. So very likely not to see plenty of goals in this St. Pauli Werder Bremen. And the last game is Heidenheim Stuttgart, last rock bottom of the table. Heidenheim is not a Bundesliga team, going to the Bundesliga 2 for consecutive defeats, and Stuttgart in Champions League spots. I guess we should go for Stuttgart to win. The only be careful, I guess, is that they are playing Celtic in the Europa League on Thursday.
Yeah, we all know what I think of Celtic in the Europa League from watching previous Europa Leagues and what I think of Stuttgart in the Europa League. So hopefully, for Stuttgart's sake, not for the Irish blood in me, obviously, that Celtic win, but hopefully for Stuttgart, it's not too much of a difficult away trip for them. But yeah, Heidenheim are terrible. Like you said, they do not look like a Bundesliga team. They have no wins in their last 9 games. They have 4 defeats in a row. This is a team that is destined to be playing second tier football next season. Stuttgart could be playing Champions League next season with the way they're playing at times. They returned to winning ways by beating Cologne 3-1 after losing surprisingly to St. Pauli, like we said in the previous match. But yeah, Stuttgart won this one kind of narrowly in October, 1-0. But I think since then, Heidenheim has gotten worse and Stuttgart probably got a bit better. So yeah, Heidenheim, they've only scored 19 times this season. They only have 13 points in the league. They do not look like a good team. Stuttgart are 4th with 41 goals scored in 22 games this season. So everything points to Stuttgart here, really, doesn't it? Stuttgart, even in the way table, they're 6th. So yeah, 5 wins from 11. They can make it 6 from 12 in this one. Stuttgart win, like you said, looks good, 176. And Stuttgart, I think they can win by even more than 1 goal. So I like to look up Stuttgart Asian handicap -1 at 219, even after their European trip on Thursday.
Okay, this is it for our Bundesliga show this week. Let me know, of course, what you think, and check out our tipster competitions. Participate on them. It's free and you can win money. And also check out Rivals and create, if you want to do so, your own tipster competition. Could be fun. Well, Ronan, safe bet?
My safe bet is, from talking about the last one, it's Stuttgart to win, yeah. Stuttgart Asian handicap +0.5 at 120.
Okay, and your ACCA?
My ACCA, we're hoping for another win this week after last week. We had a successful ACCA last week. So yeah,
again, I think you are hitting a lot this season. I lost the count, but a lot actually.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good 2026. I think from the last one, not including the Champions League ones for midweek, I think it's 5 of the last 6 have come in. So that's in all competitions. So that's pretty good. So hopefully we can make it 6 or 7, or with the Champions League 7 of 8 perhaps. But yeah, so for the ACCA this week, I'm going for Leverkusen Asian handicap 0 and Freiburg to win for a total of 5.53.
All right, I can see last week you went for Hoffenheim and Leverkusen, so giving you good vibes. Leverkusen. Well, guys, tell your friends that Ronan is getting his ACCAs correct, and you are gonna win some money. Thank you, Ronan. See you next week. Thanks everyone for watching. Bye bye.